Mike Ferris is seen walking down a country road alone. He does not know where he is. He's not even sure who he is. He spots a diner with loud jazz music playing. Hungry, he enters the diner, but no one is there, not even the staff. He goes into the kitchen looking for someone and even goes to the back door, but no one is there. He gets some coffee and reaches into his shirt pocket and pulls out some money. He looks at the money and sees that it's U.S. money. Because of that, he speculates that he is an American in the United States. He continues his journey into town. When he arrives at the town center, he again notices that no one is around. He walks past shops and even through the doors that are open, and he doesn't see anybody in the stores. As he looks around, he hears a church bell ringing and then spots a van across the town center with a woman in the passenger seat. He runs across the town square and gets to the van, only to see that it's a mannequin. Fear and paranoia start setting in. He hears the phone ring at a nearby telephone booth. He runs to answer it, but no one's on the other end. He puts a coin in and dials the operator. The voice on the other end is a recording saying that there is a special operator. Even more fear and paranoia start setting in. We next see him playing tic-tac-toe in the dirt while sitting on a park bench. The sun is setting, and the lights in the town start coming on. He notices that the theater is playing a war movie called Battle Hymn. He looks at the poster, and something hits him that he is in the Air Force. He goes into the empty theater and sits. The movie starts playing. He gets up, runs to the projection booth to find that it's abandoned. He is now lost and is running out of the theater, trips on the curb, trips over a bicycle, and ends up at a crossing light and starts pushing the button in a frantic attempt to understand what's going on. It turns out that he's an astronaut training to go to the moon, and the upper echelon is testing him to experience solitude. He's been locked in the isolation chamber for a few weeks and starts experiencing the panic and paranoia. Earl Holliman was born in 1928 and died in 2024. He did small roles in movies at the start, but in 1954 did Broken Lance, Bridges of Tokori, and Forbidden Planet in 1956. 6 Degrees of Separation with Leslie Nielsen and the Spacecraft. In the movie Forbidden Planet, he played the cook, a comic relief. Leslie Nielsen played the serious person in the movie. Later on, they would switch types, where Earl Holliman played the serious actor, and Leslie Nielsen became the goofball that we all know from Police Squad and the Naked Gun movie series. The spacecraft that he used in Forbidden Planet was not used in this episode, but many different items from that movie were used in the Twilight Zone whenever they had to use a spacecraft to leave the Earth or arrive at Earth. They used the same spacecraft that they used in Forbidden Planet. In the late 1960s, TV called, and he was a regular guest on many shows. His big break came with Policewoman with Angie Dickinson playing Pepper. For over 25 years, he was president of Actors and Others for Animals. This is kind of fun. While riding on a train to Marfa, Texas, to begin filming Giant in 1956, Earl was sitting with the cast and crew in one of the passenger cars when it was announced that by one of the conductors that Elizabeth Taylor's club car was up front. After hearing this, Earl went up to the cabin to introduce himself, and when she answered, she invited him in to sit and visit with her so she'd be able to get to know him somewhat better before they began working on the production. Not long after he was sitting with her, he happened to look out the window into the desert the train was riding through and remarked, "Look at those flowers, aren't they pretty?" When Elizabeth looked at the cactus flowers Earl was speaking of, she then looked at him and asked, "Do you want one?" Before Earl could answer Elizabeth's question, she immediately stood up, pulled the emergency brake, After the train came to an immediate screeching halt, she then proceeded to run outside and pick the biggest cactus flower she could. While the engineers ran around trying to calm the rest of the cast and crew aboard and find out what happened, Elizabeth had promptly returned to her cabin with Earl still sitting there in amazement to find Miss Taylor approaching him with a smile on her face, still looking beautiful as ever, with no broken sweat whatsoever, handing him a cactus flower and simply saying, "Here." In 1974, when he was starring as Bill Crowley in Policewoman, he was stopped by a policeman while driving one day, and when asked to show his driver's license, the officer paused after examining it and said, "Do you know a girl named Pepper?" Pepper was the character name for Angie Dickinson in Policewoman. When Holloman answered yes, the officer reportedly handed him back his driver's license, smiled, and said, "You're free to go. I'll let you off without a warning." With a warning. One of the other actors in this episode is James Gregory, who was a fairly well-known actor at the time, but only had a part that lasted for a couple of minutes at the very end of the episode. He was born December 23rd, 1911, and passed away September 16th, 2002. American character actor who played roles such as Schaefer and Al Capone in 1959, the McCarthy-like Senator John Iselin in The Manchurian Candidate, General Ursus in Beyond the Planet of the Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and Inspector Frank Luger in the television sitcom Barney Miller. In 1939, he made his Broadway debut in a production of Key Largo. He served from 1941 to 1946 in the United States Navy during World War II. His early acting work included Army training films. One such appearance is excerpted in The Atomic Cafe, 1982. He also worked in radio, including a year in 1955 to 56 on 21st Precinct. Gregory was the lead in The Lawless Years, a 1920s era crime drama which aired 45 episodes on NBC. In the series, which ran from 1959 to 1961, he played New York Police Department Detective Barney Rudinsky. After his appearance as the McCarthyist Senator Iselin in The Manchurian Candidate, 1962, Gregory starred in the film PT 109 in 1963 with Cliff Robertson. He played Dean Martin's spy boss McDonald in 3 of the Matt Helm film series, in the original Star Trek series in the episode Dagger of the Mind, 1966, as Dr. Tristan Adams, and in the Elvis Presley film Clambake, 67. In the pilot movie for the 1968 Hawaii Five-0 series, Gregory became the first actor to portray State Department official Jonathan Kay, a recurring character in the series. Gregory portrayed Nick Hannigan on Detective School. He was a semi-regular on the TV series Barney Miller as Deputy Inspector Frank Luger. His final acting credit was in a 1986 episode of Mr. Belvedere. Gregory was married to Ann Miltner for 58 years. He died of natural causes on September 16, 2002, in Sedona, Arizona, at the age of 90. He also has 190 IMDb credits to his name. Mike Ferris being trapped in the telephone booth was based on an incident that happened to Rod Serling. Serling was in an airport making a call when he heard the boarding announcement for his flight over the intercom. Trying to get out of the booth, he started pushing on the door, forgetting in his panic that the phone booth doors opened by pulling on the door handle inward. Serling waved down a passenger for help, and the man kicked in the door. Though Serling found his mental lapse embarrassing, he incorporated it into this episode. When Mike leaves the mannequin factory building and looks around, the shot is of a very familiar town square. The set's been used for decades. It was later used in Bye Bye Birdie in 1963 during the number Honestly Sincere, Support Your Local Sheriff, 1969, the Back to the Future films, and in TV shows too numerous to count or mention, as well as films. The courthouse was also used in the Academy Award-winning movie To Kill a Mockingbird in 1962. The town set was known as Mockingbird Square before it became associated with the Back to the Future series. Rod Serling was not the original narrator for either this pilot or the series. Announcer Westbrook Van Voorhees recorded the original narration and was expected to return on as the series narrator. Due to multiple contractual obligations, Van Voorhees decided he could not commit to the series and withdrew from the show. CBS producer William Self felt that Van Voorhees sounded too pompous and unconnected to the show's science fiction theme anyway, and looked for a more suitable replacement to narrate the show. He sought out Orson Welles. However, Welles was wanting too much money to do it. Finally, said William Self, Rod himself made the suggestion that maybe he should do it. It was received with skepticism. None of us knew Rod except as a writer, but he did a terrific job. Serling overdubbed Van Voorhees' narration and became the permanent narrator. Rod Serling grew up in Binghamton, New York. One of the popular department stores in downtown Binghamton was Resnick's, the same name of the mannequin store. In the drugstore, the one book on every rack of one spindle is The Last Man on Earth by Richard Matheson, also known as Logan Swanson, one of the show's main writers. This novel, more frequently published under the title I Am Legend, was the basis for the films The Last Man on Earth, The Omega Man, and I Am Legend. Finally, Tony Curtis was offered the role of Mike Ferris, but he wanted too much money. Although this pilot sold CBS on the idea of the show as a series, Rod Serling himself was not happy with the story as it aired. There was no final reality twist or mind-blowing ending that the show later became famous for. To satisfy his original version, when Serling put together his collection of stories from the book Stories from the Twilight Zone, he added the twist of having Ferris remove the theater ticket from his pocket after he leaves the isolation room, suggesting it wasn't just a hallucination after all. Ultimately, this omission from the filming script might have been best for the future of the series. Considering how conservative the forces were against buying the show, adding one more dimension of weirdness might have torpedoed the sale to the network right there. In the audio commentary, Earl Holliman, Mike Ferris, said that he had suggested to Rod Serling that he tear a page out of the phone book and it would fall out of his pocket at the end. But Serling advised that CBS wanted the program to be more of a reality. What a way to start a TV anthology series. The writing is crisp and clear. The acting from Earl Holliman is perfection in a tour de force of performance. And the story itself, although not with the quirky twist that we will get to know from Rod Serling, is top notch. I consider this to be one of the best episodes of the series and give it 4 out of 5, only because of the quirky ending that we've come to know and love on The Twilight Zone was not there. Otherwise, it would get a 5.